It's the Poojie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What's going on, Pooch Crew? Thank you for tuning in to episode 104, episode 104 of the Poojie Podcast. We're bringing the energy today because the first team offense did not want to, so we will bring it here for you. We have Luke Mucci joining us, Big Mooch joining us on the Jags panel. Sam will be joining us a little bit later, and hopefully Jacob will be as well after he gets through some internet issues, some bad weather here in Jacksonville. So hopefully my internet also stays afloat through this bad weather. Luke, if my internet goes out, you're taking the show. Keep talking to the folks. But we'll get this thing rolling here. We got 3 weeks until NFL season starts, September 9th, with the Cowboys at the Buccaneers. 3 Sundays until you got the Jags at the Texans, the battle that the whole NFL world is anxiously waiting for. The Jaguars, the new-look Jaguars versus the new-look Houston Texans. And from our sake, new look not necessarily in the best of ways. Let's welcome Luke onto the show. Luke, thank you for being here. I know we've went through a lot of pain the recent days, but thanks for finding it within to join here on the Poojie Podcast.
It's just a normal feeling of Jaguars fans, you know? You're just always in constant pain, unless it's a year that ends in 7.
Yeah, we need 2007. Lost to the Patriots in the AFC divisional round after a thrilling victory over the Steelers in the wild card round. You had 2017, a barn burner of a game against the Buffalo Bills, 10-3, James O'Shaughnessy winning that game for us with a tutter, and then beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in similar fashion. Now, Luke, do you remember this from 2007 and 2017? The Jaguars went up about 3 touchdowns on the Steelers and then found a way to make it a close game. Do you remember those games?
I remember 17 more, obviously. The thing that always rings out to me about 2007 was the David Garrard run, which I think is what everybody thinks about during the 2007 game. And I think Rasheed Mathis either took one to the house or he picked off in a big moment. If I'm correct. I don't
No,
remember.
you are. Rasheed Mathis jumped a route. I want to say it was on Hines Ward. They had a nice little battle going there. He jumped a route, picked one off, and took it to the house, I want to say, and if not to the house, at least to the 5-yard line. But that game in 2007, Maurice Jones-Drew, opening kickoff to the 1-yard line, punches it in for the touchdown to go up. Jags take a commanding lead. Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger, as well as I think Jerome Bettis maybe was on the team. Rashad Mendenhall, one of those running backs, was on the team. Led the drive back, and they made it a close game by halftime. Same thing happened in 2017. So Jags go up like 3 touchdowns. I think Big Ben threw like 2 picks in the first half. Looked like we had the game in the bag. I quarantined myself in the cul-de-sac down the street because I didn't want to be around the TV. I was too scared. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up fighting back. Jaguars get the dub. So are we projecting a nice playoff run in about 6 seasons in 2027?
Yeah, in 2027, I think the place to be is in Jacksonville. If you're looking for a head coach to hire, if it's a year that ends in 7 and Jacksonville's open, you want to go there.
Yeah, so come to Jacksonville when you can, 2027 at least, because I think that's the year things turn around for this franchise. No, I'm kidding. At that point, hopefully, Trevor Lawrence is in the peak of his prime in 2027. Hopefully, he's still a Jaguar. We've seen some of our other first-round talents walk after their rookie contract. I don't necessarily think that's likely to happen with a quarterback. I think a lot of people like to hang on to those rookie quarterbacks. We've seen many quarterbacks extended pretty lengthy after their subpar rookie contracts. We'll see what happens to Trevor Lawrence. But before we get into the week 2 recap, before we get into talking linebacking core, defensive backs, let's talk about some of this news. Actually, Luke, anything crazy happened this weekend with you with watching the game? Any fun stories to tell?
Yeah, actually, so I was watching it in Orlando near the airport. With Verbin, who's been on the podcast before, my girlfriend Stephanie, and then one of our friends Kinsey, and we're at the Millers in a booth, and next to us is this older man by himself in the booth, just drinking like a glass of wine and eating. And the girls pointed out and they're like, "Oh, look at this old man." I turned, and lo and behold, Lou Holtz is literally sitting right next to us in this booth. And honestly, I had to look it up on Google because I thought he was already dead. So I had to I had to Google just to be like, is that actually Lou Holtz? And I saw one of the servers walk past and say, "Hey, coach, how's it going?" And I was like, "Oh, that's got to be Lou Holtz then."
Woo!
So yeah, it was kind of cool. I was like, man, I did not expect that just to come watch a Jaguar game.
What, did you talk to him at all? Did he give you any of his classic coach speak lisp, like the Fighting Irish they're going to go out and win the whole national championship this year? Did he give you any of that, or was it just kind of let him eat?
No, I was just kind of let him eat. I mean, I heard people like that probably get talked to all the time, and I just enjoying nice little dinner. So let him be over there. But it was so funny because Lindsay had pointed it out, and she's like, "Oh, look at this old guy just sitting over there eating and drinking his wine." And it's like she has no idea who that is.
That's classic. I mean, we deal with that stardom all the time from the Poojie podcast. Just so many of you fans out there just recognizing us and approaching us on the golf course, maybe out at the beach. Just, tremendous fan base here, the Poojie podcast. If you're listening, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video, share the video, comment on the video as well. I want to hear your thoughts because I want to hear why you're wrong. I want to hear why you're wrong and I'm always right. Like that hashtag Poojie is always right. So I want to hear your thoughts, whether they're good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever it is. I want to hear your thoughts. Love to chat with some of the guests and some of the fans that listen to the show. Actually, have a cool guest coming on next week, a fan of the show. We're going to talk some NFL football ahead of the off week between the preseason and the regular season. So definitely looking forward to that. If you're listening on the go, please go find us on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, please go find us on podcast platforms. We have iHeart, Spotify, Google, Apple, everything that is real in technology world, we are on it. We are a part of it, so you be a part of it too. Go find us there. Luke, I have to say, stellar performance by you, leaving Lou Holtz alone, leaving him by himself. That's a veteran move right there. You don't want to approach and be too aggressive, but that's still a cool story. Not a stellar move. Jacksonville Jaguars first team offensive line in the week 2 preseason game against the Saints. What's happening?
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I think there was 2 key pieces that were out though. Like I think Linder wasn't playing. I think Nora wasn't playing. Mm-hmm. So the Saints have a good defense. That up front is pretty good. So if you're already limited on offensive line and you go up against a good defensive front, that's obviously a equation that doesn't equal well for Trevor Lawrence as he was running around trying to survive. Mm-hmm. But in that regard, it's like unless they were hurt, what is Urban Meyer doing? You have your number 1 pick out there against a good defense, and he could potentially get hurt because these turnstiles are just letting him sack him. Yeah.
So turnstiles is the perfect word. It reminds me of the old Landshark Stadium, the old Miami Dolphins Stadium, where to get into the stadium, there's these rotating metal bars that you have to walk through, and that's literally what the offensive line looked like. Linder out with an injury, I believe, a foot injury. He might be gone for a few weeks. Norwell also nursing an injury, believed to be our 2 best offensive linemen, at least in the run game for Norwell. And then Cam Robinson was out. Walker Little gets the start at left tackle against, like you mentioned, such a good defense and a good defensive line. Like we've seen it time and time again. The New Orleans defense, especially if you play fantasy football, is always a sleeper defense. They always are a good defense, at least up front. They have a good front 8, good front 7, whatever it is. They play well. Marcus Davenport is a force to be reckoned with. He showed that yesterday. If you go and watch some of the video that came out, I mean, there was just some unbelievable moments from the offensive line. Walker Little, more like Walker Little footwork. The dude could not stand to save his life. He was getting pushed all around. It was unbelievable. The backup comes in, backup left tackle comes in. He gets pancaked on like one of the first plays. That was embarrassing. Not a promising start. Trevor Lawrence started off very mundane. Again, another mundane start for him. He ended 13 of 24 for 121 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He did get a few rushing yards. A very ballsy play to run how he did.
That was terrifying.
It was, dude, are you kidding me? Like, what are you doing? Get down. Like, this isn't North Carolina State or Wake Forest. You're playing a good team here, NFL caliber talent. So Trevor Lawrence gave us all a heart attack. Had a few good throws. Had a nice throw to Chenault. Still got hit. Had a nice throw to Marvin Jones. That was nice. He got a little shaken up. But maybe the best throw of the night was the incomplete pass, the 45-yard dime that he had to the end zone that got tipped barely by the fingertips of the Saints defensive back. So promising performance. What were your takeaways of Trevor Lawrence outside of the offensive line issues?
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to tell because he was running around a lot. He was also getting hit, even though he would throw a pass. There was not a single flag called on any of it. And I'm okay with that on some of them, but like some, it was like at some point they were pretty late. Um, but he was throwing the ball well as long as he had time. If he could set his feet, he was throwing the ball well. Minus that run that was very terrifying. I just want to see what he looks like with a full offensive line and maybe some more protection, which maybe that could be our first point of address when it comes draft season.
Yeah, and you speak of draft season. I do want to jump into this real quick. Our 25th pick of the NFL draft, Travis Etienne, picked him over a few offensive linemen, a few receivers, a few defensive players. Time being, looking back, hindsight 2020, I liked the pick. I still like the pick. It was in my opinion, maybe not the right pick at the time based on team need, but maybe a right pick at the time based on team future, based on what you were looking to do on the offensive side of the ball with explosiveness. Well, Travis Etienne goes down with a Liz Frank injury, a ligament in your foot, and he is out for the season. So 16 plays into his rookie season, no more Travis Etienne, and it's the James Robinson show once again. I'm sure anybody that's done their fantasy draft is happy to have James Robinson, and anyone that had Travis Etienne not too happy. But another wasted first-round year, similar to C.J. Henderson last year getting injured. Travis Etienne injured this year. The offense goes back to having one less dynamic player to run the ball, to catch out of the backfield. Nothing but negativity regarding that injury, right?
Yeah, and I wasn't a big fan when that pick happened. I wish we had done something to shore up the line, did something for defense, because obviously our defense can't stop Jameis Winston or wet paper. So, I mean, any other pick, because James Robinson can obviously handle the workload of a single back, 3-down back, and still got 1,000 yards for us. But then once after the pick was done, it's like, all right, I'll just come around, I'll take it. And now he's hurt, so... But the good thing is we still have James Robinson, and he can be that 3-down workhorse. And you don't have to worry about the running back position, but it just would be so much nicer if we had maybe some more depth at O-line or some other to put on defense, because Jameis Winston was just lighting it up.
Yeah, there's holes all over the field. Let's get one thing certain. We were a 1-15 team that goes into the draft with the number one pick, obviously taking quarterback. We're a 1-15 team. Holes all over the place. Call us the Swiss cheese team of the NFL. We had holes all over the place. We take a luxury pick in Travis Etienne. That is what it is. But this is not like if Najee Harris were to go down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's add Jacob into the stream. Jacob, thank you for joining us. Glad you can be here, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Besides some internet issues, I finally got back up and connected, so here I am.
Let's go. Tech difficulties during storms. It's classic, right? Yeah. Rainstorm happens in Florida every day. Technical issues.
Absolutely. I mean, just a little quick unplug and replug, and things just work all of a sudden. And
it worked. And I'll give you the little disclaimer I gave Luke. If my internet goes out, you two run with it. So who knows what's going to happen here? But we were just talking about the Travis Etienne injury. I was not necessarily like if Najee Harris were to go down with the Steelers, and that's like their number one bell cow guy that they're expecting this year to be the number one guy. They lost James Conner to Arizona this offseason, so it is Najee Harris or nothing. Travis Etienne goes out, and I think, it's all negatives from that injury, and the dynamic outlook that we had on the offensive side of the ball is now gone. And you got to wonder, okay, how much did our offensive coordinator, not Darren Rovell, what's his name?
Darryl
Bevel. Darryl Bevel, not Darren Rovell. Darryl Bevel. The offense has already looked like shit for most of the preseason. I don't think this can help the play calling at all.
No, and I also don't like the fact that now Carlos Hyde is probably our RB2, and he has looked very bad. Anytime he's in a Jaguar uniform, I have not liked how Carlos Hyde has looked.
Yeah.
I would say that the play calling is still uh I'm not fully like out on it yet because I don't know if it's our legitimate play calling yet as preseason. I know you want to get Trevor Lawrence going, but I don't know how much they're really opening up the playbook. So not that it's not an issue. I want to see what happens on week 1 against the Texans before I say the play calling is bad. But
So
then yeah,
in Jacob,
go
to
ahead.
that point, real quick, is this where we maybe see the negative sides of not having that fourth preseason game where now Trevor Lawrence isn't going to play week 3 likely?
We don't know that.
It, well,
We
yeah, we
assume
don't know
that.
that. Okay,
Who
fair
knows?
enough. We don't know that. But we go from questioning the play calling, thinking, okay, maybe the offensive playbook is closed a little bit, to, okay, week 1, let's open it up. Let's open the whole thing up. We haven't seen it in live action against any other team in the preseason. And now, because it's the regular season, now all of a sudden he's prepared for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you prepare for like running the offense or if it's more of like, do you have command of the huddle? Do you look wide eyed when a blitz is coming at you? Like what things like really take adjusting to? Because we're not NFL players, we never went through it. So is it really like the specific plays you're running, or is it just like kind of getting adjusted to the speed a little bit and the lights, I guess. But I'd be curious to see if it's different. If he does play in week 3 of the preseason, but week 1 if it's different. In regards though to the running back position, this sucks for Travis Etienne. It sucks for Jags fans. It's a blessing to have James Robinson though. I don't know how much I'm worried about Carlos Hyde because I think he still was going to be the backup like plotter. And then if
No,
it was
I know that. I was just saying that if James Robinson goes down, our running back team looks awful.
well, good thing we got a first overall quarterback. Maybe we'll just air it out and actually trust a guy to throw it. But yeah, it's definitely not something you're excited about losing Travis Etienne. I just know I'm not as down on the offense overall until, I see what happens. And I think James Robinson's going to do fine as long as he's durable. I'm not worried. Um, I never got to see Travis Etienne get going though, and that was the thing that sucked. The 2 plays he got a catch in the flat in the last 2 games, nothing happened. Well, actually, he didn't even get a catch in the first game. It was overthrown by Minshew. And then this one, it was a very short little catch and nothing happened. So it's kind of a shame we never got to see him just bust one loose and see what happens in the open field.
No, we lost him.
Oh, we lost Poojie.
Oh no. Yeah, no, I wish we could have seen ETN be as explosive as he was in Clemson, or like even show signs of it, because during the 2 preseason games, I didn't even see the injury that happened to him. It might have been when we were leaving the restaurant or something. And all I hear now is that he got hurt, and now obviously the news that he's going to have surgery and probably be out for the season. But the few plays I did see him where they were trying to go his way, you couldn't really see any of the explosiveness, any of the excitement that would resent why we had the first pick for him anyway.
Yeah, I think the positive thing is that like the reason we got him isn't necessarily just as the running back position, but it's more of a guy with some speed and quickness to use in space. So while Travis Etienne's going to be better overall than these guys coming up I'm talking about, but like having people like Tavon Austin or Jamal Agnew, I don't really know about Jamal Agnew as much, but I think Tavon Austin might be someone that now makes the team for sure.
Yeah, and that is
Just
maybe a bright spot about having an injury like that, is that you have another spot on your actual roster because you now place somebody that was going to take a spot on the injured reserve list.
yeah.
So I guess you get to keep one extra guy, and Tavon Austin has looked pretty good for us, I would say, at least in the first preseason game. I didn't watch really the second half of this one. Did Tavon Austin kind of jump off the screen?
I didn't watch it too much either because I was at Justin's house and I left at a little bit after halftime. Minshew was doing
Hmm.
absolutely nothing, but I think just overall he's been a pretty good bright spot at least on like the second, third string offenses, and it's more of just a guy with some speed and quickness to use in space where we're gonna have a running back run the ball and do those things, but ETN was really gonna flash where maybe we lined them up in the slot or maybe we swung it out to him in the flat, and it was more about him just being put in open space and making guys miss. And they put him on IR, not a short-term IR, so he will be out for the season. So it's almost like good that he's just at least shut down to have the surgery, rehab, and not be like, oh, like maybe we can get him back in a certain amount of time. And
Yeah.
like just shut him down, have him stay, rehabbing until he's fully healthy, and we'll get him back next year. And it'll be like we have 2 first-round picks all over again.
Yeah, and so like you were mentioning that you left right when the half was over, maybe started, and Minshew wasn't doing too well. I did the same thing, and I went back to Stephanie's, and we turned it on, and apparently it was like 22-24 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did we score 18 in the fourth quarter? Well, CJ Beathard looks like he's trying to cement his spot as QB2, and Minshew is basically tanking his trade value for us. What do you think about that?
That's the thing is like based on the performance, I know Minshew's looked good in practice and camp, but Beathard's been looking good in the games. So based on that, if we're gonna play games this year against other teams, not practice against other teams, I'd rather have Beathard right now based on performance. But like you said, the trade value is now lower. So it's like, do they keep all 3 guys and then hope that, if someone goes down that Minshew still got some value to trade away, or does he get let go? Like we don't know. I mean, he hasn't shown enough to really impress like in games, and I feel like that might bite him when it comes to cuts.
Yeah, I would say previous years, he has never been good in preseason. Never been good in preseason. So maybe it's just something that he's just never good in. He just
Yeah.
can't play preseason because I remember the first year we had him, you thought he died on the field after his helmet flew off against the Ravens. And then that same year he goes 6-6 as a starter during the regular season. So it might just be a thing that Minshew can't play the preseason.
Yeah.
But also back when he was playing in the regular season, everyone was saying that he couldn't throw, his arm strength wasn't there. And honestly, watching during that time, I thought it was fine. Watching these preseason games, I absolutely see it. He just can't make
There
those
was
throws.
a there was an article I read this morning about risers and fallers on the Jags roster, and one of them was Jalen Camp, and it kind of mentioned how Jalen Camp didn't have any catches or something. And I was like, well, there was one play he got open downfield, and Minshew just underthrew him about 5 yards. If it was
Yeah.
Lawrence with the kind of throws I was watching him throw, he probably would have hit him in stride. And I think for me, that's what really jumps off the screen is Lawrence's arm strength. And it jumps off the screen to people like us because there's not been any real Jaguar quarterbacks that have that kind of arm strength. And the one that I would say probably did in Bortles then also didn't have the most accurate balls to, maintain a spiral and get as far as they probably could have. So when you see Minshew and Trevor Lawrence's passing strength, like their throwing power, like side by side, it just makes it very obvious Minshew doesn't have, enough to put it on some of those deep balls. And that's what we saw, Urban do in college. He ran the ball a lot, but he took some deep shots with some fast guys that he had in college.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think back to his Florida days, he had one of the fastest running backs in all of college football with Jeff Dempson. Then he also had Percy Harvin, who was a very speedy guy
Yeah.
himself. That Florida offense was ran through Tebow on the ground, and then Jeff Demps could just scat pack. And then Percy Harvin was just their deep threat. So, yeah, he runs it off with speed, and I think Etienne was going to be a big piece of that cog in the machine, but it's so sad just to see him go down like that. And now, I mean, what do you think about Campbell's play too? So our 25th pick is down, and Campbell, I don't know, man. It's
Dude.
just it doesn't look good.
Hey, at the end of the day, Tyson Campbell's a rookie. And so what's benefiting here is it's a good thing CJ Henderson is coming back and it looks like he's playing decently well and kind of coming up back to his expected performance, because if that was a wash and CJ Henderson was like really like sold out and he's gone, then we were worried about, okay, who's playing across from Shaq, and it's like Tyson Campbell and Sidney Jones, and Sidney Jones didn't have a good game last night either. So I think Tyson Campbell, it was impressive the speed that he had getting to that one deep ball where Shaq, was I wouldn't say
Yeah.
beat, but then he ended up using that speed into just knocking Shaq out the
Yeah,
way.
just knocking Shaq out of the way.
So I said that. I was like, wow, it's kind of impressive he got there, but then it's like he didn't know what to do when he got there. So I think it's funny how our first round, or not even our first round, I should say, our draft class, we were very hyped for, and we're kind of seeing at the end of the day, it's a rookie draft class. We can't hold our entire hope on it, except for like Trevor. That's the main prize. But we shouldn't be hoping that this draft class, carries the team. And it's not ever going to be like that.
Now, Coach Urban Meyer, he gets very heated. He's very competitive. Do you think these preseason games are getting into his head? Does he have those jitters? Is he getting just incredibly pissed off that he keeps losing these games and not putting out a good performance? Because I know that was one of the reasons he stated why he left Ohio State. Obviously, health reasons, things like that. But I think it also came with the stress of these games and having so much high stress on himself. Do you think that he's putting that much pressure on himself to win these preseason games at all, or do you think he's just letting him go? Because it kind of looked like he was getting a little upset on the sideline.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he said it even before the game started that he's trying to win these games. Like it's preseason, he's not used to not having games that don't matter coming from
Yeah,
college.
that don't count.
Um,
Yeah,
Someone, and I don't know if it was Brent Martineau on the radio today that I was listening to, or whoever. I think it was him. Was talking about body language, and Urban's body language wasn't good. But the positive thing was at least Trevor's was pretty good. Like Trevor's body language through all of the pressure that he dealt with and some of the three and out. I don't even know if there was three and outs as much as just drives that we didn't finish. I was
there was I think to start the game a run pass that was a 3-and-out. And there might have been another one, but I remember specifically the first drive was a run pass of Jagsville Old.
I at least am more. There's Poojie.
Made it
I'm
back.
I'm at least more.
Wi-Fi as reliable as the Jags offensive line.
Geez. Well, we didn't even have the full offensive line, so maybe that's the problem. But I would say that with Urban Meyer's body language looking kind of poor from this, and it's preseason, at least Trevor Lawrence looks like that's not the case for him. And that's the person who really matters because at the end of the day, he's the one running the offense. He's on the field making the plays. Urban needs to be able to not worry about the preseason so much, but at least the guy that's going to be leading the team on the field looks like he bounces back and has some pretty good resolve when it comes to, any adversity on the field.
Yeah, and can't really count everything on few drives. Sometimes it just takes a little while to get in the groove of things. There's been a few games where Alabama, like the Citadel Alabama game. I mean, if you told me at half Citadel and Alabama were close in a game, I'd have been like, you're lying to me, but they were. So
Yeah.
sometimes it just takes a little bit of time and get adjusted to the game and get a groove on, and maybe that's what Trevor Lawrence needs. So he'll play a first quarter that might not be great, and then second, third, fourth, he really turns it on, and we haven't seen that yet. So
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's never had to do that in college. So I said this last night. I was like, this is a good test, down 14-0. Let's see what Trevor Lawrence does. And he didn't look just kind of turned off by the situation. Like I've seen Jack's quarterbacks like Blaine Gabbert. A rush comes, he starts getting sacked. His eyes start coming down. He started taking a 6'5" frame down to like a 6'2" or 1, and he started getting antsy with his feet. Trevor Lawrence looks like he takes every play one play at a time and doesn't remember much, and that's what you need. Hopefully they just open things up, let him cook. I think he's got an even better chance once DJ Chark comes back. Like that's the guy that if he gets loose deep and Trevor Lawrence with his arm strength hits him, that can really help DJ Chark. And when you're missing some guys and missing offensive linemen, it's hard to really judge what this offense will look like. But we want our depth to also be able to fill into.
I think we lost him again.
I thought he was going to say something.
I thought he was going to say something too. Yeah, we need some depth on all positions. I think receiver depth is one that we are probably the strongest in. I would say running back depth just simply off of Etienne, but that's now gone. Offensive line depth, that is not there. And I liked Tyson Campbell's speed and everything, but what I guess some of the analysts were saying is that he doesn't have ball skills. And that's kind of, I might agree with that there. So
And
what
I
do you
don't
expect for game 3 against the Dallas Cowboys? What do you think? Does Trevor go out and play at all? Does he play more reps?
they were talking about this on TV. I know, like, we don't really know how teams will react, it seems, because while it's the third week of preseason and it's the final week now, there's still that final week between, the final week of preseason this year and the regular season. So even though there's no game, there's still going to be an extra week after preseason week 3 of practice. So people are saying we're going to find out if teams prefer to sit their players and remain healthy, but then have 2 weeks off, or if they run their starters out there because of that time in between, and they don't want their guys to kind of get any kind of rust. If Urban and the team kind of wants Trevor to get some more just reps, I guess, like they probably will put him out there. How much I don't know. At this point, I feel like the backup job can be kind of won by Beathard if they wanted to say that. And maybe they just decide whether or not they want the first team offense to kind of stay warm, ready for the regular season, or actually get any. Has the first team offense scored a touchdown?
I don't believe so. I know Trevor hasn't. I don't think Trevor has thrown a touchdown yet.
There's literally no right
Yeah,
answer,
I don't.
because if you don't
I
put him
don't
out
think so.
there and then he kind of like has, some rough plays in week 1 of the regular season, everyone's going to be like, oh, you should have played him in preseason week 3 and gave him some reps. And then if you put him out there and he ends up, getting nicked up, then it's like, wow, why would you play him? It's a lose-lose situation. So it's like there's pros and cons and there's risks both ways. I wouldn't hate playing him a little bit. I wouldn't hate sitting him, but they just need to try to get some kind of thing rolling on the first team offense. But then again, like you said with Minshew, he looked awful his year, the preseason, his rookie year. And then when he came in, he scored 26 points. Or did he score 26, or like we ended up with 26 because Nick Foles had a touchdown?
Yeah, he threw a touchdown. I think the Chiefs kind of took off and scored a lot of points on us, and then Minshew kept us in for a little bit, and then the Chiefs just kind of like were a better team than us, so they ended up winning that game. But he kept us in it for a little while. But yeah, again, CJ Beathard, it's his time to. It's his game to win that QB2 spot against the Dallas Cowboys come Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. We'll see. I want to see more of Lawrence myself. I won't hate if they sit him, just because it's like I feel like we still have yet to get that big wow play. Like for me, I don't know if you guys talked about it. We had a wow play that didn't even get completed last night, and it was,
The end zone.
yeah, like
Yeah.
when me and Justin were side by side watching that, he does that little bootleg. He rolls out left, and there's a receiver, someone kind of dragging in the flat, that I thought, oh, this is going to be a kind of thing like wait till he gets back behind the defender, and he's going to throw it to him for like a 5-yard gain, and he just unleashed it off like a little. I don't even know if it was off 1 foot or if he had like a little skip up in the air and then threw it with power that Minshew couldn't even do planting his feet.
Yeah, flat-footed. Yeah.
And even though it didn't get completed, I'm like, this is why he was the first overall pick. This is why you need to be hyped as a Jags fan that he's the quarterback, because we haven't really seen the full potential of the types of throws he can make. I know people said in college in his last couple years, the offense did a lot of screens, a lot of short things. They didn't really let him like push the ball, and I think he's very capable of that. So we'll see what happens with, sitting him or not. If I want to see more, but I would love if we just see it maybe week 1.
Yeah, and they have shown. I mean, Chark hasn't played a preseason game yet, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. Trevor Lawrence throwing to DJ Chark. He's a big guy. He's kind of a nice deep threat. Marvin Jones has looked good for us. I think he has the most yards of our starter receivers, and then I like the way they're using Laviska Shenault. Honestly, they are showing their hand maybe a little bit, but it looks like he's getting used a lot in different different schemes, and I'm a big fan of that. I think Laviska Shenault is one of our underrated receivers. I mean, it takes about 4 guys just to tackle him, and
Yeah.
they're using him in screenplays and all this other stuff. So I just want to see what it looks like when you have all 3 actual starting receivers, and then maybe we trade away Gardner Minshew for Zach Ertz. Who knows?
I don't know why not. It's like it's just not that difficult of a thing to give up, even like a mid-round pick for Zach Ertz. But what was the we're doing linebackers and defensive ends today?
Potentially. I would love to hear what you think about our linebacking core. I mean, Miles Jack looks like the one that wanted to play football, and I don't know about anybody else.
The funny thing is like when we traded away Schobert, and they said because Damien Wilson, is that his name? Damien, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's funny, like I almost didn't even know he was on the team until we traded Schobert away, and then I never noticed him on the field until last night. But he did, I saw a couple tackles from him. He looked big and the kind of run stuffing linebacker. Miles Jack looks very good, kind of run around. We did talk about in terms of like defensive end / linebackers. We lost Josh Allen last night due to COVID protocol. He didn't get to play, so
Oh,
there
is that
was
why he wasn't playing? I wasn't sure if he just sat out or was just
no.
being cautious.
If you didn't know, Josh Allen sat because of potential close contact, and I think he potentially is unvaccinated. So like, there's different protocols with vaccinated and unvaccinated players. He has to go into a protocol. But Justin had a keen eye for Caleb last night. I think I don't know if he got a sack, but he came close on a few rushes, and Jihad Ward had a sack. That if you watch
I
that
remember
back,
the Jihad Ward one.
if you watch it back, Caleb beats the left tackle and gets around him, causing Jameis to step up. If it was Jameis, I think it was Jameis, and then Jihad
Mm.
Ward gets the sack. So it was pressure from Caleb. He's starting to show a little bit of that, and I think that's good because then if you pair that up and Josh Allen actually looks like he's hitting the pass rush pretty well, that's what we were hoping for last year. But maybe in the 3-4, it actually like puts them in situations where they have a better time using like their body and their frame to do so.
Yeah, I think Caleb is doing better than last year. Last year, obviously, his rookie year, and he probably got more accustomed to the speed of everything. I remember one play he was trying to do a spin move that went absolutely nowhere. Whenever I played high school football at DN, they said don't spin move. So I don't know if he learned the
Yeah,
same thing or not. But obviously, if you spin move and it works, it looks amazing. If you spin move and it doesn't, you're just going to get pushed around by the
yeah.
offensive tackle there.
He did
So
have one where he like almost spun, like he wasn't like far enough to the side of the guy that when he spun, he wasn't
yeah,
like
that might
around
have
him
been
yet.
the one I was watching too.
Yeah,
Eh, it's just that one didn't look good, but I do think he has been getting more pressure, and he looks better than last year, which is good. So that now that you think about it, basically we traded away Ramsey for Chase on an Etienne. Obviously, with Etienne being out, the trade doesn't look that great, but
I think
we're
what you
not
think
sure
about
yet.
that trade, because everyone always talks about it like that. The thing is like it almost isn't like Ramsey for
Oh,
Travis.
we had to trade him. Like he wasn't going to come back
That's
and
the
play
thing,
for
is
us.
it's like it's not like, oh, here's Ramsey's production versus, these two guys. It's like Ramsey just wasn't gonna play. He was gonna be a head case and probably hurt our locker room. So getting anything that we did is gonna be a benefit. Justin did correct me, by the way. It was linebackers and DBs. I said defensive ends. We will talk about DBs. But yeah, Damien Wilson, Miles Jack look good. We have Caleb, we have um, Josh Allen. And then we got a couple depth pieces. I know Shaq Quarterman. He's been a big guy in camp. I think Joe Cullen has praised him pretty well. So I'm excited to see that, if we have any kind of rotation, how he does. Am I missing who am I missing on the depth?
At linebacker, I think Leon Jacobs was cut.
He's gone.
Yeah, nicknamed Traps. I can't think of any of the other ones.
Let's see.
Um,
I usually more prepared, but as you guys know, I did have internet issues right before this. So let's see what we got. Um, and it's just interesting watching the play of our defense. in a 3-4 because you just see a lot more of guys, lined up on the line and then potentially like moving around, stunting. And we see different types of blitzes coming rather than just a four down rush, and whether they can do it or not, just hope they do. What's up, Justin?
What's up, guys? I just blitzed this stream, came back on pretty strong here. We're getting things worked out with Xfinity. I'm going to have a nice bad review for Xfinity Wi-Fi coming up.
Dude, that's my Wi-Fi too. You have Xfinity?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's trash. Good thing they're not a sponsor. It's trash.
I'd
Luke,
sponsor.
Luke, what do you have?
Xfinity.
Oh, God.
But he has that other.
But I'm down here in Palaca. We got that squirrel connection.
That's true.
All of Palaca's Xfinity Wi-Fi is being funneled into his house right now.
That's true.
Yeah,
we have all these next gen video gaming systems, Netflix rolling. We got everything going out there, so we got to figure this out. But what did I miss? Where are we? I mean, I think
kind of hitting on the linebacker.
We were touching on the linebackers.
Did you touch on Chason yet? Caleb on Chason.
I did mention that you had a keen eye on him last night.
I
paid attention.
I thought from what I saw, okay, he didn't make many plays, but what I had said on Twitter was he was disruptive enough to force some sacks, which was nice to see when Taysom Hill was in the game, because Taysom Hill is technically the Saints' mobile quarterback, right? Like that's what he's known as, that's what he's known for, and Caleb Chason was able to get around the edge in certain points to where Taysom Hill had to step up into some pressure, and it actually kind of helped the Jags defense in some instances get off the field, extend, lengthen second down, third down, and so on. I was pretty happy with what I saw from him as being one of the shining lights on the defense.
And I mentioned before you had come back, I told Luke that you said that, and the exciting thing to hope for is that Josh Allen has the higher potential in most people's eyes. So if Chason was finally looking like he was, put in the right situation, a 3-4 rather than a 4-3, and if he's starting to get some pressure and some pass rush, it's year 2. Now if we get that and we put Josh Allen back on the opposite side, hopefully we're cooking with something. And then I think Jihad Ward, I think, Dwan Smoot, some of these guys that still rush from inside or like they're a heavier position. I'm starting to get a little bit of, where this pass rush might come. It didn't fully hit home last night, but I think it was improved from the game before.
Yeah, and the run defense looked pretty good too. I mean, there was, I think, one play late that maybe they got a run off, but I didn't see many of those explosive run plays that's burned us in the past, like up the middle or off tackle. It looked like the run defense held their own to about 3-4 yards max in some instances, which I think is really important for a young secondary to get that help up front. Keeping drives, because realistically with Shaquille Griffin back there and we have Tyson Campbell and C.J. Henderson and we have so many Rayshon Jenkins now too. We have a lot of pieces in the secondary that it's a lot more beneficial to us to have to deal with 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 9s than it is for 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 3s. I'd much prefer to see our secondary hold true than our defensive line have to hold true on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 and so on. So I think that run defense is going to be critical to just the overall outlook of the defense in general. What else at the linebacking core? Did you guys touch on Myles Jack at all?
He looks.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying he looks good. He looks fast. I mean, he's the star defensive player that we know he is. I mean, of the past years of Jacksonville being bad, there's one bright spot on defense, and it's always been Myles Jack.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, I think it's been an unfair beginning to his career, being moved around so many times in different spots, having new defensive coordinators. But ultimately, I think he's the same player he's always been. He's just now being utilized in a very efficient way. So I'm excited to see how he, like Jacob said, kind of meshes with the rest of the defensive line in the 3-4 defense and can kind of create some havoc and cause some messes for the offenses. So I think the outside linebacking position, if you look at Caleb Chason and then you look at Josh Allen as well, I think that's two very bright spots on this team. And then with the middle linebacking position, I mean, obviously there's some questions. Quincy Williams was out there yesterday late in the game making some plays. So we'll see what happens there. Jacob, what are we thinking about the middle of the field when it comes to linebackers?
Oh geez, is that Is that on your? Oh my gosh, I was looking up the stats and all of a sudden audio's playing on me. I got so confused.
You're good.
Anyway, what was that question again?
No, just from a middle of the defense standpoint, in the middle of the field, from the linebacking standpoint, what's the outlook like? How are we feeling?
I mean, Damien Wilson. I keep wondering if that's his name because I feel like I didn't even know he was on the roster until we traded Schobert. He's going to be around primarily for kind of run stopping and stuff. So it really is falling on Miles Jack from like an inside linebacker's position. I know Shaq Quarterman has gotten some good praise from Joe Cullen. Um, we saw though some of these linebackers even outside they drop back. So it's like in terms of that middle of the field and like pass defense, it's like we got guys that can drop back. And I used to do this on Madden all the time. Like I'd always run 3-4, and then I'd take my outside linebackers and just put them in little spies or yellow zones. So I think Miles Jack being the leader in the middle, he's not like the middle linebacker to call plays or have to worry about that, but he's just like roaming, and we have like I don't know if we're going to play a little more nickel. So instead of it being like a Miles Jack and like Damien Wilson, if it's more of like, or not even a nickel, I guess. I know some people potentially thought, well, we play some dime personnel where we have like more defensive backs and use some of our safeties. So like maybe Rayshon Jenkins is more of like a linebacker, or like Andre Cisco is more of a linebacker in certain plays. They're gonna move people around in Joe Call's defense, and it's not gonna ever like be just like base like we were used to with 2017, where here's the 4 guys on the line, here's the 5 guys on DBs, and we got a couple linebackers, whatever.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the more dynamic play calling. I think we're in a day and age of the NFL where quarterbacks are catered to a lot, and I think the more dynamic of a defense you can have really kind of shuffles what the offenses are able to do through the passing game. So I'm excited for that. I don't want to see a basic defensive setup. I mean, unless that's what the players are set for. So I like the idea of having some guys shuffle around and move around as long as they're up for it. I mean, I saw Cisco play pretty well last night, coming off the edge a few times to blitz. He was all over the place. I think Andrew Wingard should probably be as far away from a football field as possible. But other than that, I think defensive back-wise, we know what we have in Shaquille Griffin. Jameis Winston tore up the secondary yesterday in his 2 drives that he had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. But both of those touchdowns on Shaquille Griffin, one of them was maybe more so caused by interference from Tyson Campbell, and the other one was just a tremendous catch by Callaway. It was just unbelievable. It's hard to fault Griffin in that sense.
Yeah, I think that if you look at those 2 plays on paper, you're like, wow, Griffin got torched. But me watching the game and being a biased Jags fan as I am, I think you cannot assume the worst, because yes, Tyson Campbell came out of nowhere on the first one, and I think Griffin would have had a shot. I'm not going to say he would have swatted the ball, but I think he would have had a shot too until Campbell kind of knocked him down. And then the second play, Marquez Callaway, that he beats Griffin. I think he got just enough space, and Griffin had pretty good coverage, but he just made a one-handed, he caught it with one hand and kind of put it to his body. That's a great catch. You can't necessarily do anything about that. What do you think?
I think both were great catches, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, they were both great catches. Like so at some point you can't stop that.
I think the first one maybe could have gotten swatted, but since it did, yes, it was a great catch. So we know Shaq's going to be our number 1 corner. I don't think I'm too worried about him, especially because we're UCF guys. We also know what he's about. The opposite side, do you think CJ Henderson has solidified his spot as the opposite starting corner above all of this potential mental stuff he's dealing with?
Luke, go first.
I will say basically the same thing I've always said about CJ Henderson. I think he has the talent. I think he is a great corner. If we can get him the mindset where he wants to play football and he's enjoying it again, I think he's absolutely the second starter on our team. I just want him to get his mind right, get his mental health good. And as Jaguar fans, we're hoping that he is in that state so that he can come play for us. And we want him to succeed. We're not against him. We just want him to come out and enjoy it. And if he's not in that mindset, we want him to get himself right first.
Yeah.
The funny thing is,
Go for it, Jacob. Yeah.
I was gonna say the funny thing is I didn't really notice him too much last night, and it's almost because we had two deep shots just get thrown, Shaq's way, and then Tyson Campbell, knocked into him, and that's what brought. I think Tyson Campbell was across from Shaq, and then once he did that, they're like, okay, get out of here. And then they brought in Henderson, but then we didn't really see much from him, but like not in a bad way. It's like, he wasn't getting like beat or he wasn't, but they just had two deep shots on the first team that we didn't really see him get tested either. But I think he's actually done a good enough job, and he's, 2 years in, or I guess a year played. Actually, not really. He's almost still a rookie. But I don't want to put Tyson Campbell on the outside and start, especially after what I saw last night, because he's still a rookie. And I think Sidney Jones struggled some, that he should still be good as depth, but I really need CJ Henderson to perform, because if not, I think we have a problem in the secondary, because the other two guys might be a little inconsistent.
I from the first two preseason games, I'm actually pretty motivated or pretty inspired by CJ Henderson. I was expecting a lot worse from him based on some of the off-field stuff that had been going on. I wasn't expecting what I saw. Maybe it's not the best stuff that I've seen, but it's kind of like an offensive lineman where it's like if you don't know about him or you don't hear about him, it's more often than not a good thing. Like I'd much rather not hear about CJ Henderson making a good play than I would hear about him making a bad play. So not hearing about CJ Henderson, like you mentioned, I like that because that means he's doing his job. He's just simply doing his job. He's not letting up the big plays. He's playing good coverage. I think CJ Henderson is the second starting cornerback on this team. I think Tyson Campbell, maybe shuffle him in there if we're in the nickel or we need a third or fourth defensive back. But I think from what we've seen, I think CJ Henderson, these have been two confidence-boosting games for him, and I think he's only going to build on that. So I think that's the big thing, too, is he's played well 2 weeks in a row, and I think he's going to continue to build on that, which is a pretty inspiring thing to look at from a cornerback perspective.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think it's just he was drafted in the first round for a reason. And we don't want to lose a guy that was drafted in the first round, another one. But I think he just the secondary overall didn't really get a chance to get tested too much last night because we just had two bombs go for touchdowns.
Yeah,
it was on the same player/players. So, what do you guys think of the safeties? I mean, we kind of know how the quarterbacks, at least we think, are going to shake out. Rayshawn Jenkins is going to start. He was paid to start. He's not looked bad. Who's going to get that second position? Is it Andre Cisco? Does he have it in the bag?
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's healthy, which I think he is based on what we've seen. He was injured in college when he was at Syracuse, but I think at that point, he's got a nice veteran safety next to him. I don't see the problem in starting Cisco when he's played well for the most part. There's been great praise about him pre-draft, during draft, and now after the draft. I say it's one of those positions where he's young, but it's also not all on him. Like, he can't necessarily completely blow up a play like a rookie corner could or whatever. I think you put him in there and you let him play. Yeah, go for it, Jacob.
I haven't looked back, but you remember watching that play, that first play that got thrown on Shaq, that Tyson Campbell came in.
Mm-hmm.
When we saw the replay, there was a safety
that went on to the middle out.
Yes. Who was that? Do either of you know?
I don't know, but I remember seeing that too, and I was like, all right, well,
that's important.
Shaq didn't have help over the top because this guy went for the middle out instead of going the guy over the top.
Okay, so I don't know who that was, but that also could have been the defensive scheme. Was the safety knew Shaq was playing man coverage and had to take him deep, and his role was to play a shallow zone on the, since Shaq was going deep, that right side of the field where Shaq would have been is now open. Maybe the safety was meant to come over the top and cover over the top, because I'm pretty sure the other that shallow or that deep poster or flag route that guy ran, I'm pretty sure that was a linebacker on that wide receiver. So I think that was almost the scheme, that the safety was supposed to come in because he knew there was an understanding that Shaq Griffin had man coverage over the top. So as ugly as that play looked, I understand the concept of helping out the linebacker that's in coverage, let the number one corner take care of his man coverage, and it just simply did not happen. That's kind of what I get from it.
I'll tell you this much. It wasn't Rayshawn Jenkins. And, of course, this isn't coming through well.
Xfinity.
Yeah, Xfinity TV, Xfinity Internet, it all sucks. Rayshawn was lined up kind of behind the line, so it wasn't him. I didn't get Jones 29. Who's that?
That's Sidney Jones?
No, because Sidney Jones is 21.
21. Jones 29 was the safety.
Josh Jones. That was the safety that was there. So, like you said, whether it's the scheme or not, at least it wasn't Andre Sisco or Rayshawn Jenkins who came in as the starters, because that's the type of play I wouldn't be surprised if Andre Sisco makes a mistake like that in regular season, because he's a rookie. There's a lot of a faster movement, and those things will happen. So Andre Sisco should start, in my opinion. And if he does let some big plays up like that, I'm not going to panic until it becomes a pattern. But I don't think it will. I think he's really got the ball skills that he might be the one, put deep a lot more than Rayshawn. I think Rayshawn's going to be more of that strong safety. But they might start where Rayshawn plays more cover 3 just because he's the veteran.
He's the veteran, yeah. No, I agree. I say start Sisco. He's the thumper. As fans, we want to see what he's all about, because that could be another one of those mid-round steals that we get that everyone can get excited about, like a Yannick Ngakoue was back a few years ago. Another mid-round defensive player that can become a staple of the defense. Would be great to see Andre Sisco become a stud on the defense. So I'm inspired from a standpoint of, I think we have a lot of good pieces. I think the coaching right now we're still figuring things out. Brand new head coach to the NFL, new defensive coordinator under that head coach. They've never worked together or anything. He's in a new spot. New offensive coordinator. There's so many new things to go around here. We'd be ignorant to think that there's going to be a smoothness or a purity to it this soon in the preseason. So a lot of new things, new faces, new facets to the game. But guys, one or two sentences from each of you. How are we feeling? Just the overall scope of things of the team moving ahead into Dallas, week 3 of the preseason, 1:00 on Sunday. Just how are we feeling overall so far through the preseason?
I'm intrigued by Trevor.
Trevor.
No matter what the rest of the team does, I think if Trevor's the guy and he makes some of those plays that I think I've seen close flashes of, I'm intrigued for how he helps uplift the team rather than the team uplifting him.
Yeah. Luke, what about you?
My motto is pain. It's the same old Jags that when I was watching it, I felt the same. And I'm just waiting for the regular season to start, and maybe it all looks different when every single starter is in. And so that's what's getting me through this.
Yeah. What I don't want to happen is the same sort of excitement when Trevor Lawrence is good that we got when Gardner Minshew was good, because it was almost like a fake excitement because the rest of the team was bad. But I want to get excited about Trevor Lawrence being good, but the whole team also looking good. So I want to make sure that Trevor Lawrence plays well, he looks good, but still remaining cautiously optimistic. What's the ceiling for this team right now, as you guys think? I say right now ceiling is 4 wins based on what I've seen so far from the roster and from these 2 games.
So somebody actually I saw took a collective of all the teams that finished 1-15. I think there was probably about 15 of them actually, and averaged out how many wins they had the next season. And the average was 6.5. Do you think we even get close to that?
I think that's fair. I think when you talk about a ceiling, that's if everything goes great. And
that's
of course,
true.
If everything goes great, you're going to win the Super Bowl. But I think to say a ceiling of 6 to 8 wins is fair, because what we're seeing right now is not close to the ceiling. It's okay, this is what happens if it looks bad and things aren't going well. So I think the ceiling should be anywhere from 6 to 8. Maybe the bottom of the barrel is 2 wins. I think if everything goes to shit, and maybe more realistic 4 or 5 wins, with the opportunity for something to surprise us.
Yeah, we're missing a lot right now. We're missing DJ Chark. We're missing Brandon Linder. We're missing Andrew Norwell. Cam Robinson didn't play. Etienne is out for the season. We still don't have tight ends. Luke Farrell caught a few passes. On the defensive side of the ball, more consistent, a lot more starters available to play. So we'll see what happens once the offense gets clicking. Hopefully in Dallas we see some good things, at least final preseason game. We maybe see some more from a guy like Jalen Camp, maybe a guy like Colin Johnson, who caught a touchdown last night as well. Let's see what happens moving forward into week 3. Anything else from you guys before we head out for the evening?
No, I'm just excited. I just want the regular season to start, man.
Absolutely.
I know. 3 weeks away. 3 weeks away. 3 Sundays away. We are almost there. September 12th cannot get here soon enough.
I want to see Trevor play some snaps next week, and I want to see him finally score a couple touchdowns, maybe just one actually, if he can get one. And I want to see it on Hard Knocks. That's really what I want. I want to see him get the airtime.
That's right.
Jags on Hard Knocks. Let's go. I mean, honestly, Dallas defense is a pretty good chance of that happening. I mean, they haven't been the best recently, so we'll see if he ends up playing. But gentlemen, I appreciate you being here. Fans listening live, if you're listening after the fact, thank you for tuning in. I apologize about my Wi-Fi issues and tuning out for a few minutes there, but thank you to Jacob and Luke for keeping this thing rolling. Hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 104 of the Poojie Podcast. We have plenty more ahead. We have NFL previews coming up next week. Jaguar previews. We'll be doing Texans week 1 preview coming up in a few weeks as well. And we are just thrilled to be here to talk Jaguar football with you guys, talk about the NFL, and so much more on future episodes. So thank you for being here. If you're listening on YouTube, please go find us on podcast platforms. If you're listening on podcast platforms, please go find us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Share us with friends or family. And we want to be your number one source for Jaguar content on the interwebs. So make sure we become that for you. But until next time, go enjoy the rest of the week. Go stay dry in all this weather. If you're in Jacksonville, go stay cool if you're out in the sun. But most importantly, as I always say, go make this world a better place and take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?